largest pro wrestling events in the country, WrestleCade, returns to Winston-Salem, November 24th to the 26th. Meet your favorite wrestling stars, experience live wrestling events, shop for exclusive wrestling merch, and more. 3 days of family-friendly fun for fans of all eras during WrestleCade, November 24th to the 26th. Your chance to meet the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. It all goes down at the Benton Convention Center in Winston-Salem. Get your tickets now, WrestleCade.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, from the studios in the wrestling capital of the South, it's another terrific episode of The BENGEBUSTER Show. Please welcome your host, Tony Binge.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to The BENGEBUSTER Show. It's been quite a while since we've had a episode here, but we are back stronger, better, bigger than ever. New logo, new everything. Well, except for your host. We're still around. And right now, before I go any further, I want to bring on my co-host. I'm talking about none other than Mr. Rock and Roll himself, Chris Playboy Plano. Chris, what is going on?
Oh, Tony, it has been way too long. So great to hear your voice. So great to be back on the BENGEBUSTER Show. We have so much to cover tonight, and I know we're probably not going to get it all in. We're going to have to do multiple episodes, but excited to be back, and thank you for having me on.
Man, I'm excited, Chris. It's been like we said, it's been quite a moment since we've had a BENGEBUSTER Show, but a lot going on in your life, my life, the podcast life. As everyone knows, just early on this year, I upgraded our studio with some new recording equipment, and unfortunately that recording equipment had some flaws. I had to send it back, and of course we were at the mercy of the mail, mercy of the returns and customer service. I mean, you name it, we've had the issues, but I think and I'm hoping we have them all worked out, and now we can get back to doing what we do best on this show, and that's talk about wrestling and rock and roll. And Chris, I'm telling you, this summer is going to be red hot. Before we get into the wrestling action, let's talk about the music action. We have got a ton of concerts coming up over the next couple months, especially here in the Charlotte area, and of course worldwide, as Motley Crue has launched their European tour with Def Leppard, but not just Def Leppard. A new guitarist, Mick Mars, has left the band, and I think that was one of the last things we talked about on one of our last episodes. But John 5 has replaced Mick Mars, and Chris, have you had a chance to see any of these shows online with John 5?
Yeah, Tony, I have. I'm not going to say I've seen whole shows. I've seen some snippets, some songs here and there, and hey, he seems to be blending in. It is not the original Motley Crue by any means, but you still got Vince Neil, Nikki Sixx, Tommy Lee out there as well, and now John 5 has blended in with the band, and they did a couple of shows here in the U.S. before kicking off the European tour, and they're off and running. Crowds are drawn, and they're still doing the alternating of who's closing each night, and now their special guest is Alice Cooper opening up for both bands, and that's a show just in itself. And hey man, they're rocking and rolling, and they got about a half a dozen shows in the United States coming up later this summer, and I know the fans are looking forward to having them back here on the mainland.
Yeah, I like I said, I'm with you on that. I haven't had a chance to watch a complete show, but from the clips I have saw, it seems like John 5 is showing and giving a lot of he's still not going in and changing the songs out a whole lot, still playing them pretty much the way Mick Mars played. So therefore, you don't feel like there's a huge change. Although you look up, I'm so used to always seeing 3 black-headed guys and 1 blonde. Now we got 2 blondes, 2 blackheads. So it's and of course John 5 definitely looks like he would be in Motley Crue, the way he dresses, the way he looks. But he's definitely a great guitar player, and I think that he's going to carry Motley Crue for a few more years.
Oh, absolutely. He's extended the band. Mick wanted to step aside. I mean, if we go back to, when the final tour contract was signed and that they said this was going to be it. And, and then they came with the stadium tour and the stadium tour was announced and COVID was hit, with the pandemic, around the world, which held up, the tour for a couple of years. And, Mick stuck through it. He fulfilled his contract that was originally signed for the stadium tour like the rest of the band members did, and they want to keep going, and maybe it was time for him to take a step back. But, John 5's doing well. I mean, he doesn't want to be Mick Mars. He's not Mick Mars. I think the fans get it. I'm John 5, but I'm going to play the Motley Crue tunes as close as I can, to Mick Mars on electric guitar. And I think he's doing a great job, just a few months into the gig.
Yeah, I agree, and he's doing a fantastic job, and it doesn't seem like it's really changed many of the fans. People are still buying tickets; they're still selling out stadiums, and I think they're definitely going to continue for a while. I know at first I was a little me being an avid, huge Motley Crue fan. I was like, "What? Come on, what are we doing here?" But and I think I even went as far to say I don't think I'd ever buy another Motley Crue ticket. But I've kind of changed my mind about that. I mean, if they come close here, I'd definitely load up in the car with you and drive down and check it out. But it'd kind of be cool to kind of see them without Mick Mars. But if you go back in time, all the different incarnations of Motley Crue. It's always been the same mainstays. It's always been Nicky and Mick. So it looks kind of odd looking up there and seeing somebody else, on his side of the stage. But I definitely think John 5 is going to carry on the Motley Crue name. And of course, I saw where they announced some new songs coming out pretty soon. So we're definitely going to keep our ears out and wait for that to happen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think. Once they get through this extension of the tour in 2023 and see where it goes from there, if they come up with some new material, I think it'll be great for the fans and to see, how far they're going to potentially take this. I mean, it seems like they're gelling together well. I really haven't heard any negative comments from anyone internally in the band, personally, unless I'm missing something along the way. And, so far so good, and I think they love being overseas. They're seeing an audience they haven't seen in a good number of years, and they're playing the tunes. The set list is tight. It's pretty much not changing up night to night at all, and you're going to get the same show no matter what city they're coming to. They're really not playing favorites, and you're going to go to one city, and next thing you know, Motley's playing 5 more songs that they didn't play 3 nights ago. But they're playing, right. They're pretty much sticking to the same, thread of songs every night from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So I'm excited to see that. We've also got Guns N' Roses is coming. Bret Michaels is coming. I mean, there's some really good shows coming to the Carolinas. Well, all over. So I'm definitely excited for this summer. It's going to be a fun summer of music for sure.
Yeah, I'll tell you this, and telling fans now, and all the concerts are coming. We've already had some big ones here in Charlotte at PNC, out the outdoor amphitheater, and Janet Jackson was here, Godsmack was here already. Dead and Company were in town last week. I'm going to tell fans right now, Tony, I know you know this. If you're planning to go to a show, these outdoor shows, you got to get there early. You got to get there early. You got to get parked. You got to hang out. Because I'm still telling you, I'm reading stuff online that as crazy as it sounds, Tony, as crazy as it sounds, so far past COVID that we're at now, these places are still not running at full capacity as far as staffing goes.
Oh, I know. It's crazy.
And when you got 25,000 people invading a venue, and they're not fully staffed, it impacts. And we've had traffic problems. There's been concession problems, lines are getting in, ticket taking, parking. So you got to get there early. You got to make a day of it. And the days of rolling up to an arena, yes, at least for an outdoor show, those days are gone. When it's sold out, you got to get there early.
Yeah, 100%. So I think that's something that you and I have always done when we go to concerts. We don't just show up at the last minute. We don't show up 20 minutes. We're there hours before doors open, and we're ready. We get in, and we don't have any issues. So everybody else needs to do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, they're still feeling the pinch. A lot of these places, believe it or not, concession stands and parking attendants, ticket takers, security. I mean, they're still feeling it. As crazy as that sounds, you got to really take that extra buffer into consideration, and really just because you pay so much for the tickets, and it's you don't want to rush, and you want to just plan properly, I think is what we're saying. Yeah,
for sure. Now, I know fans, you probably heard at the top of the program right before we went on the air, it's that time of year again. We're getting close. I know it's several months out, but hey, we always preparing, we're getting ready. But WrestleCade is coming back to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, November 24th through the 26th, and they are already announcing a plethora of guests such as the Boogeyman, Bryan Danielson, Buff Bagwell, Bugsy McGraw, C.J. Perry, Crazy Steve, Devon Dudley, George South, Jake the Snake Roberts, our good friend Handsome Jimmy the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant, Caitlin, NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion Kerry Morton, the list goes on and on. Nick Gage, Ricky Morton. They are announcing a lot of these, and here's one I'm excited about. For the first time in a long time, the Fabulous One, Steve Kern and Stan Lane, are going to be making an appearance for photo ops. There's going to be tons more, and as we get closer to WrestleCade, we'll talk more about that. But right now, fans, before we get to the main event of our podcast, we've got one more commercial. My good friends, and I will be there this Saturday, the NAWA returns to Morganton, North Carolina for the big, huge event, Thunderdome 4. And incidentally, Chris, this is the first time that the NAWA has done the Thunderdome. I can't say that, but first time that they've done a Thunderdome that yours truly is not involved in. I've decided to break away and do my own little singles thing. I got my manager, Bobby Lee, and he said, hey, Tony, there's no reason for you to get in this cage and spill any blood, hurt yourself. We've already proven to everybody in the Carolinas that we can beat the Moonshine Express, the B&B. We've decimated him several times, so we're moving on to bigger and better things. And I got my eyes set on that NAWA Heavyweight Championship belt. That's a belt that I have not held yet, and my goal is before I lace up and hang up the boots, I'm going to have that belt around my waist. I don't care who's the champion. Somebody is going to give yours truly a title shot at some point in time. But before I get to that, I got to prove myself in the singles competition like I hadn't already done that. But Ted is going to be the first person to fall at the hands of yours truly. But huge match, huge event coming up this Saturday. And right now we're going to take it to the commercial and let them tell you all about this huge event coming to Morganton, North Carolina this Saturday. That's Saturday, June the 10th.
The dome will still be erected this Saturday night at Morganton. Cage to enclose the Thunderdome War Games. Witness the might of giants. Team Fury will clash with Team Vega. 8 men will enter. Only 4 will leave. Inside a steel cage, it's 1-on-1, then 2-on-1. A flip of the coin decides which team God. Submission or surrender will decide the victors in the Thunderdome War Games. This Saturday night, June the 10th, Thunderdome War Games.
I'll tell you what, Chris, I am excited to see that one. It's going to be because it's going to be a bloodbath for sure.
Man, Tony, I know those guys, they're fired up. Morganton, get on out this Saturday night. The Thunderdome's returning. Who knows when they're going to pull this one back out of the woodshed again. It sounds like a great card. I know you're going to have your work cut out for you as well, but at the end of the day, I know you'll come on top. You got your manager in your corner, and, you got your eyes set on bigger and better things. But, boy, what an exciting night. I know those guys are ready. And even likewise, I know we talked about WrestleCade. I know we're only in June, but let me tell you, November and Thanksgiving is not that far away. And I know those guys with AML Wrestling up in Winston-Salem, and they work so hard on this. I mean, I think they take maybe just a few weeks or a month off after WrestleCade ends, and I think around the first of the year, they start planning it for the following November. So hats off to them, and that list is going to just explode over the next 3, 4, 5 months with adding more talent from both today and in the past, and it'll be another stellar event up at the Benton Convention Center in Winston-Salem.
Yeah, it's going to be on fire, that's for sure, and I can't wait to be there for that. Beginning,
I'm sure you would love to get Boogie in the ring.
Oh man, I've been
one more time. That would be the place.
Well, I've been trying that, and from what I've understood and what I've heard through the grapevine, I believe there is the Bobby Lee, my manager, is working on signing one more time Terrific Tony, the Saturday Night Superstar, one more time against Handsome Jimmy, the Boogie Woogie Man Valiant. That might be. He's telling me sometime that he's been talking to the matchmaker, the promoters, and he's been talking to Jimmy Valiant himself. And it seems like Boogie's booked everywhere, and I think he's got an open date sometime in September. So
okay.
So the word on the street is September. I get my one more time to finally retire the Boogie Woogie Man, and that's my plan. So be on the lookout for that. Listen out for that. That is definitely coming up here in the next few months.
That would be awesome. I know this would be a bucket list for you in 2023 to retire the Boogeyman permanently, and probably even walk out with his leather jacket and you take it home as well.
I'm going to take it and then I'm going to put it on eBay and sell it. That's what I'm going to do. But I'll make sure I get a certificate of authenticity so some dumbass can't like complain and accuse me of doing something wrong, like some prick fuck that we know has done. But anyway, that's a different story for a different podcast. But getting back to the NAWA, sorry I got a little fired up there for a second, Chris. But normally, Tony, the Saturday Night Superstar, doesn't use that kind of language. But this person has stuck their. I mean, they've pissed me off so much that even when I think about it, I get hot, and I apologize to the listeners at home for hearing me lose my temper.
You're fine.
But getting back to the NAWA Thunderdome 4. Of course, we got the big main event, War Games. It's going to be 2 teams, 1 winner. We're talking about Team Vega versus Team Fury. I'm going to have to put my money. If I was put my money on somebody, I have to put it on Team Fury. Even though I'm not in there on his team this year, but I think that group has got a pretty good chance at defeating Team Vega. But then the second cage match for the NAWA World Heavyweight title, Big Donnie defends the title against Myrick Moore. Those two are no strangers to each other, and so I'm looking forward to that one. But then some other matches, of course, yours truly taking on Ted. Then we got one of the Allen brothers, Mason Allen, taking on Jamie Purge. So that's going to be a pretty good match. And then, of course, the NAWA Tag Team Champions, the Allens, looking to defend their title against the Ghetto Superstars. Chris, this is a new team that has came on the horizon, has came into NAWA. So very old school team. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. But this Saturday night is going to be on fire, and I cannot wait to lace up my boots and pick out some nice outfit I've got and wear it and come there to Morganton and show them why I have been the Saturday Night Superstar for over 30-some years.
Man, it is going to be on fire there from top to bottom. A loaded card. The Thunderdome in itself is worth the price of admission. Don't miss it, Morganton. When the NAWA comes to town, they're bringing it all. I know those guys. They're training hard. They're getting ready, and they're going to give it all and give you a show that you're never going to forget. Wanting to know when they're coming back to town with the next date, and it'll be a great time, Tony. Can't wait to hear how you do. Unfortunately, I can't make it. I have to go to a wedding this Saturday night, but I know you do well, and I'll be looking forward to hearing the results afterwards. I'm sure you'll text or call me or something.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be good. I know you'll enjoy it. Hearing how bad I embarrass Ted, and then who knows what else might happen this Saturday while I'm there. So I'm excited about that and ready to do it. So.
Yeah, and I'll clarify for the fans, Tony. I have to attend a wedding. I'm not getting married.
Oh yeah, I'm about to say you can't be. Chris can't walk now. You can walk down the aisle, but you can't walk down that aisle.
Right. I'll be attending quietly in the back.
That's it. That's it. Well, fans, as we get ready to wrap up this week's show, before we do, we got to get to the main event of the show. And we were actually going to talk about something else, but something happened that I definitely like to talk about, and it's going to be a sad announcement, but also we're not only going to stay sad, we're going to talk about the positiveness. But unfortunately, the Iron Sheik has tragically passed away. From what I'm reading, he passed away in his sleep at his home there in Fayetteville, Georgia. He died on June the 7th I guess when this podcast drops, it will be yesterday. So unfortunately, I'm the bearer of bad news and got to drop those bad news. But Chris, for a couple minutes, let's talk about what was the first time? Do you remember the first time that you ever saw the Iron Sheik on TV?
Oh, I mean, Tony. The first time that I saw the Iron Sheik, I will say and again, I'm going back. I was really young. I do remember him in his early days in the NWA. He did wrestle in the NWA and was kind of somewhat territorial, but really, I will always remember the Iron Sheik for beating Bob Backlund in Madison Square Garden for the World Wrestling Federation Heavyweight Championship. And Arnold Skolin throwing the towel in. Backlund was in the camel clutch in the middle of the ring. And that really was the setup for what Vince McMahon had for Hulk Hogan. I mean, that is the memory of, and at a time when the United States was not in best interest with Iran. There was a war going on, and it was an interesting time for professional wrestling.
Yeah, it really was. And the Iron Sheik really, what a lot of people don't know, he was legit. Like, he was real tough. He also trained a lot of guys, and in the old days they called stretch. They stretched a ton of guys, and just to see if they were worthy enough to be in our business.
I mean, great amateur background, Olympic medalist. Represented his country. And when you look at the Iron Sheik, I mean, he was, a man who came over from Iran and was successful in an industry that is really pop culture, and was a success as a professional wrestler in the United States. And it was all based on, his nationality and how he looked and how he portrayed himself in Iran. And he made the people believe. I mean, he's in the ring. I mean, I can't, between him and Nikolai Volkov, the ring would be littered with debris, would it not, Tony? I mean, it was just an unbelievable scene that I don't know if you would see that in wrestling today.
No, I don't think so. I really don't think you would, because that he came through at a different time. Right,
absolutely. We were talking way before social media, way before cell phones. I mean, cable television was just breaking in, and MTV, and he was at the right place at the right time. They needed a reason to get the belt off of Bob Backlund, and it made total sense to give it to the Iron Sheik. He was a transitional champion. What did he say? That Hollywood blonde Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah.
So it was 30 or 40 days later, right? 30 or 40 days later, back in Madison Square Garden, Hulk Hogan, one of the first wrestlers that I know that got out of the camel clutch and then, beat the Iron Sheik for the WWF Championship. And then that's when wrestling went mainstream.
Yeah.
After that. But
it really did.
The Iron Sheik was pivotal in a transition that was so delicate, because you were literally taking it off of Bob Backlund, who had the title for a number of years. But Vince McMahon saw the vision, and the Sheik was a key player in that, and he'll always say that Hollywood blonde, Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
Because really Sheik, in my mind, I don't even think Sheik even got a rematch for the title. If I could be wrong.
No, I don't think he did.
Because he always said that Hollywood blonde owes me one more match. He always would say it, even decades later.
Yeah, and he never got it.
He never got the return match at MSG, or I don't even think even at the county fair, or anywhere in between.
I don't think so.
I'm not being, facetious there, but then he found a way. The Iron Sheik found a way to stay on top, and Vince rewarded him with teaming him with Nikolai Volkov, and then they became the WWF Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, and held those belts for quite a while.
And they did hold those belts for quite a while.
They lost them and won them right back. And, of course, we'll get more into that a little bit later. But before we talk more about the Sheik, what I like to do right now is, because he has some great promos, let's go to one of these promos right now where, as the Sheik is talking about, how about that World Heavyweight belt?
And in addition, Iron Sheik, if I could prevail upon a former World's Wrestling Federation heavyweight champ to come on in and join me, Iron Sheik, it is going to be you one-on-one against Mike Rotundo.
Boston, Massachusetts. Mr. Mike Rotundo, you remind me one of that good-looking Italian people in the Boston, Massachusetts. I know you have a lot of support. I know all American boys are going to come see you. And I heard he's a state champion of the Syracuse University. What I call him?
Syracuse University, you're right there.
That's it. I know about your background already, readers in Tehran, Iran. I know all American patriots in them. Boston, Massachusetts, behind you, they're gonna say USA, USA, whatever. But remember, Master Mike Rotundo, how about the background of the Sheik from Tehran, Iran to Pan American game, AAU game, Olympics,
heavyweight champion,
everything. How about the world heavyweight belt?
That's what I said, the world's heavyweight champion, Sheik, please.
Mike Rotundo, remember, you're wrestling with your master. You're wrestling with the Iron Shiek, world class, Olympic class, Boston, Massachusetts. I hope all your American people have enough gasoline or time to come to the Boston Garden. And then we're going to find out who.
There it was. The Iron Sheik talking about coming to Boston, and he's going to embarrass Mike Rotunda. Chris, what do you think about that?
I mean, that was a hot feud, Tony. I mean, whether Sheik was taking on Rotunda one-on-one, Rotunda, Wyndham, and tag action with Volkov, that was a hot feud that really extended the careers for the Sheik and Volkov and their reign as tag team champions. But Tony, they were wrestling there every town, every night back then, every other night.
Yeah, they were.
And classic Sheik would spit during interviews, would spit when they got in the ring. I mean, and it just fired people up. I mean, if this guy was from Tehran, Iran, and the United States. I mean, we're going through, this is when Ronald Reagan was in office. I mean, Ronald Reagan was a Republican president from 1980 to 88, and we were in some lockjaw, negotiating with Iran, and the WWF took this storyline to television.
Yeah.
And in a way, correct. And Vince McMahon made a lot of money off of this, but the Sheik had respect. The Sheik had respect behind him because I think a lot of people understood of his amateur background and his success. And he came to America and migrated here, and became a U.S. citizen. So I think he had that respect behind him. But he made a lot of money. He made a lot of money for the WWF. Over the years, and always remained loyal.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if he was booked, he was going to be there, and he was just one of those old school guys that you don't screw over a promoter. You take that booking, you honor that booking.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that is practice these days.
Not much, that's for
but
sure.
He was definitely old school and very well respected in the business. Strong as an ox, and I'm going to tell you, Sheik in his prime, I don't know, and Tony, I don't know if outside the ring you'd want to get into it with them in a bar or somewhere out in public, because in his prime, I mean he could really hurt someone if he wanted to.
Oh yeah, for
just
sure.
With the amateur background.
I mean, he talks about all the time about making Hogan humble, and I'm sure he made a lot of other guys humble as well with the Camel Clutch.
Absolutely. But Sheik was in there. He was at the right time in the WWF, and has been in a couple of movies, music videos. He's got you had the mustache, and he did well for himself, and even years beyond that, onto the independent wrestling scene as well, with his clubs challenge that he would bring from town to town, and just getting in the ring and wrestling, and just hearing the stories of sitting down with him and hearing the stories and how he talks about it, everybody, and he was there. He was there.
He was there.
I mean, you can't take it away. He was.
Nope.
Yeah, he was there.
If there was a promotion that was drawing money, the Sheik worked there. He worked for Mid-South Wrestling, Georgia Championship Wrestling, WWF, WCW, NWA, and probably tons. World Class Championship Wrestling, the AWA.
Right.
I mean, he was all over the place, and everywhere he went, he was over. So you definitely can't take anything from the Sheik. And one of the funniest Sheik stories that I've heard is the one where he talks about that when he came back to the WWF in 1983 to 84, he made a return and challenged the WWF champion Bob Backlund. Backlund accepted the challenge, and as you spoke about earlier, the Sheik won and become WWF champion. And then, of course, he ended up defending that belt against guys like Chief Jay Strongbow, Pat Patterson, Salvatore Belemo, and tons of other talent on TV, including Tito Santana. And Tito almost won the title from him. But then 2 days later at Madison Square Garden, the Iron Sheik was scheduled for a rematch against Bob Backlund, but he was replaced by Hulk Hogan. 5 minutes in, the Sheik had Hogan locked in the camel clutch. He was making Hogan humble, and but Hogan was able to power to his feet and break the hold from the Sheik. It rammed the Sheik into the turnbuckle, which made the Sheik fall down, and then Hogan hit him with his new finisher, the atomic leg drop, got the pin, won the world title, and incidentally, they claim Hulkamania was launched at that point in time. But the backstory, and this is a story I like to hear, the Sheik talks about going into that match. AWA owner Vern Gagne offered the Sheik $100,000 to break Hogan's leg and return to the AWA with the WWF title. Imagine if the Sheik hadn't have been, faithful to Vince McMahon and had taken Gagne's money and broke Hogan's leg and brought the title back to the AWA. Imagine what that would have done to the landscape of pro wrestling.
Yeah, it was an interesting offer. We go back to Vern Gagne. Never put. Vern Gagne had Hogan.
Yeah, well, he had them all.
He had them.
He had all. He had Hogan. He had Gene Okerlund. He had the Iron Sheik. I mean, you think about it. Most of the guys that became big stars around 83, 84, 85 with the WWF, they all came from the AWA just about.
Right, and that's when Vince saw cable television, the opportunity for closed-circuit television events, and we're going to go national with this thing. And that's where Hogan came in to fit. Backlund was not the long-term plan. We're going to go with the Hollywood Beach look.
Yep.
And Hogan, big, tan, 24-inch pythons in the arms, the biceps, and that was it.
He was very
yellow,
marketable.
red. It was marketable. It related to kids. Hogan was also coming off of the Rocky III movie as well, with Thunder Lips, and it was the right time. Totally. And MTV was coming into play as well. So it was the perfect storm at the end of the day.
Yeah, and everything lined up.
And Sheik was there.
Sheik was there, and he helped put Hogan on the map. And even though, like we talked about, he never got a rematch, it didn't hurt his career at all. That's for sure.
No, it didn't. No, it did not hurt Sheik's career at all. And he was always very loyal. And Vince McMahon inducted him into the WWE Hall of Fame. And something that Sheik has been very proud of. Sergeant Slaughter inducted the Sheik into the Hall of Fame. And if my recollection is correct, I think Sheik might have had one of the longest induction speeches that he presented in the WWE Hall of Fame. And but all what he was saying was true, and some of it was off the hip, but it was true.
It was true, and I think guys like the Iron Sheik and Ric Flair and some of the ones that really put pro wrestling on the map from the '80s, I think they deserve a moment like that, a time to go on there and thank everybody and educate the people that may not know about their career.
Absolutely, these were guys that at some point, they were flying. They were doing their thing, but they were also driving too from town to town. Some of them.
Oh yeah,
still back at that time. Depending on where they were from a mileage standpoint, some were still driving. So made good money. Lived in Georgia. I had the pleasure of working with Sheik on numerous times on the indie scene. A great guy. What's great is to see him the club challenge he would do on the indie scene with the clubs and twirling them and challenging 3, 4, 5 fans to try to do it. No one ever beat him. No one even came close.
No.
He had the trick and the knack to do it and the strength. It was all in the shoulders and the wrists, and in the knees and the hips. But with that, and he did his thing in the ring, and win or lose didn't matter, and how long or short the match was didn't matter. It's hearing the stories, on the road, the matches, because this guy was in the ring with the best. I mean, he wrestled Andre. He wrestled Hogan. He wrestled Snuka. We can go Pedro Morales. We can go down the list. And you're not talking about someone who's just making this up, because he was in Madison Square Garden every month wrestling.
Every month.
During that time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're in the Garden, you're getting paid. And he was getting paid no matter where you are on the show.
Right, and he was getting paid
so
really
that
well.
was the place to be.
Mm-hmm.
He's talking, one night I'm in Boston, next night I'm in Philadelphia, then I'm in D.C., Atlanta. I mean, it's just the stories.
Yeah.
It's just, and he just had a knack and a way of telling them. And he was truthful. There was no fluff.
No, not at all.
And one thing about Sheik, if he didn't like someone, he would tell you, I like that guy.
Yeah.
He would tell you right out. What, jabroni, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
He's a kiss ass, right? Or what? He would say it right out.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He
stabbed people in the back.
He would not pull any punches, and he would tell you straight up.
He would tell you who his allies were, who his foes were, who his friends were, and he would tell you all. Two faces. He was very straightforward, and I think part of that was his heritage and his nationality and his background.
Yeah.
He's very, very straightforward. And, and that's where okay, yeah, this guy's been there. He knows.
Yeah.
This isn't some fly-by-nighter, who had a run for a year and, now he's on the indie circuit, or whatever, a 2-year run. Now he's on the indie circuit off of television. This guy was on TV, on major pay-per-views, on national television, so he had some substance, behind him and what he was saying.
Yep, exactly. But the Sheik was an avid professional, and he stayed that way.
Mm-hmm.
Even, I met him at WrestleCade a couple of years ago, and even then, I mean, it was like, he was so down to earth, so professional, and but he drew a crowd, and people still came around and talked to him and listened to his stories, and he was the real deal.
I mean, honestly, if you look back, Tony, and you go down the list, okay, you knew Ivan Koloff very well, correct?
Yeah.
Uncle Ivan, he was a WWF heavyweight champion. Iron Sheik was a WWF heavyweight champion. How many guys down the road can you maybe say that I'm going to be able to meet who was the WWF heavyweight champion?
Exactly.
There may not be any on the list.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, that legit held the title. And we know superstar Billy Graham passed away recently as well. I know we're talking about the Iron Sheik, but another one who held
that's true.
the title. The old regime's going out. You know, the old regime now is Hogan. As crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, who after that would, right. I mean, if you start going down the line of who's held, it Savage not, he's not here. I mean, if you start thinking about this, I'm not saying, I've heard some stories about Hogan right now in his health, but I mean, really the old regime, Sheik's the old regime.
Yeah, he was.
If you really think about it, of who's held the title, in succession, if you were to look at the history of that title, he was one that you really should cherish, that you met and you knew and you had to share some stories with.
Yeah, for sure. And then of course he had his big comeback in the Gimmick Battle Royal on WWE and ended up winning that too.
Well, Tony, I watched, which really, I watched his, actually, I did watch almost the whole 2-hour biography on the Sheik the other night on A&E, and also they had one on Dusty Rhodes as well, The American Dream, another one. I can't believe it's been 8 years since Dusty Rhodes has passed away.
I know.
I couldn't believe it's been 8 years. But, with that said, I didn't realize all the turmoil Sheik went through with his family. I had no knowledge of that.
Yeah.
And even Dusty too, a little bit. I didn't have all that till I watched it, but what they said was, with that Gimmick Battle Royal that Sheik participated in, they said that that Vince McMahon made a last-minute switch and said, we have to have Sheik somehow end up being the last one in the ring, because they were afraid to throw him over the top rope because of his knees and hips.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
They thought he would have snapped or broke a hip, broke a knee, but in all honesty, another way to give back, that he won that Battle Royal, was inducted into the Hall of Fame, but I think at the end of the day, they were nervous that if we throw this guy over, he may not be getting up.
Right, yeah.
So they had to do some shuffling of the deck.
Yeah,
I think at the last minute. I don't think anyone had any squawks about it.
Yeah.
I would be shocked.
No, but what was funny was when he came out, I was like, "Oh my gosh, the Sheik is there," and they
said it took Sheik. And then Bobby Heenan's favorite quote was, "Sheik's walking so slow. We're going to be at the it was at WrestleMania, I believe, correct?
Yeah,
this happened. He said we're going to be like at WrestleMania 2 years down the road. The Sheik was walking so slow down the aisle."
And Bobby's got some great one-liners anyway.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Absolutely. But, Sheik was a great man, great for the wrestling business, both at the professional level and the amateur level.
Yes.
And great ambassador for the sport. He's going to be sorely missed, but he was a champion at he was the champion at the most pivotal time of professional wrestling, at least for the WWF going national.
Yeah.
He was the transitional champion, and then Hogan took the ball and ran with it. And then we know how that story goes. We've talked about that.
Yes.
A number of times.
And one of the other things,
but he was there.
He was there. And another thing that some listeners may not even realize, but the Iron Sheik had actually almost competed in the 1968 Summer Olympics for Greco-Roman wrestling for Iran. So Olympic, so he was a real deal.
He was. And like I said, I don't know if I'd want to be in his prime. I'm saying in Sheik's prime, 60s, 70s, and even into the 80s. I don't know if I'd want to mess with him behind the scenes. You know what I'm saying?
No, definitely.
I mean, as far as legit, tough, Greco-Roman, and whatever other styles of wrestling or that he might have known, you know, he could mess some people up. And even Andre, you know, they said that his matches with Andre were stiff.
Right. Yeah. Right.
You know, and I'm going to say Andre was, you know, back in the 70s, early 80s, he was in his prime. So, you know, I mean, he's in there but, you know, Sheik doing whatever he needed to do, I guess. But, you know, did it in a way where he just got heat. He got heat just from his look and the way he talked.
Yeah.
Period.
He was a heat magnet.
That was it. And the big flag. That's all. The big Iranian flag waving in the ring. That's all. But there was other things politically going on that drove that fire.
Yeah, and I also think he and Nikolai were a good tag team, too.
They were. You got Iran, and now you got Russia. So you got Ronald Reagan, Iran, and Gorbachev, who was the Russian president.
Yeah.
At that time, it was the perfect thing. And then you get Sergeant Slaughter, right? Slaughter. You know, everyone's going to cheer for him against these guys. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, you know, another American guy. And then you get Rotunda and Wyndham when they were doing their thing in the WWF with the American angle. So, right. Corporal Kirchner, right? They brought him in as well. You know, I mean, so, you know, McMahon was just throwing all these different angles at them from the U.S. angle, and it worked. It was a moneymaker. It was never even a main event. It was a card. It was probably mid card, maybe mid upper card kind of storylines.
Yeah,
you know, these tag team matches.
But they all worked, and they all drew money,
and it worked because the storyline was already there. It was the U.S. versus them, and the people back then bought it.
Yep, they bought it big time,
and it made money, whether it was in a big arena like Madison Square Garden. And even back then, Tony, the WWF, they were still running some bigger high school gyms at that point for fundraisers, and they were running some smaller B towns, and they would bring that kind of stuff to those towns, you know, and they would be the main event that night. You know, they may not be in New York City. They might be, say, in Des Moines, Iowa, you know, and they would bring that kind of show into people because they were faces on television every week.
Yeah,
on the weekly syndications. Mm-hmm. And now they're coming to town, so they were making very, very, very good money back then, and they were all just riding the tide.
Riding the tide and doing everything that they should be doing to draw money and to make money for pro wrestling, and they kept drawing it and making the business larger and larger and larger.
That was it. It was all about the business and keeping the fans, and they were just keeping their images as fresh as they can to keep the storylines going. But very, very simple product from town to town.
Yep.
And back then, it worked. Whether it would work today, I don't know. It might be a little more far-fetched and far-stretched, but that time, that era, those characters and gimmicks and images clicked with the fan base at that time.
They worked really well during that time, for sure. No doubt.
Mm-hmm. I even saw Ric Flair put a nice post up today as well.
Oh, yeah. The guys were coming out thanking the Sheik for, his time in the business and his sacrifices and everything that he done to make the business what it was for him.
Right.
So
but he will forever. I'm not saying the list is so short today because titles do get changed, though. You know, Roman Reigns has been the champion for a good number of days now, but the Iron Sheik will go down in this industry. And back then it was a short list. I'm going mid-'80s here of being a WWF World Heavyweight Champion, albeit it was only for 30 or 40 days. But his name is on that list. And
his name is definitely
I know a lot of guys would love to have their name on that list. So, you know, something never be able to take away from him.
Nope, not at all. He was there and WWF champion, WWF tag team champion, and of course he was also champions in Jim Crockett Promotions, Mid South. I mean, he held titles everywhere he went.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I'm sure it's extensive. You know, I'm sure it's extensive. You know, and even on a short list, how many WWF champions, world champions, have been the tag team champions?
Right. Yeah, that's true.
So probably another short list as well. So you got to give it up because I know there's a lot of guys in this industry that will love to have those distinctions, no matter how short or long the reigns may or would have been.
Yep, for sure. Well, fans, I think that's going to. Chris, you got anything else before we close the podcast?
Man,
this week?
Tony, we've covered it all this week. We covered some rock and roll. We've covered wrestling, current events, and a tribute to a world heavyweight champion who, in the Iron Sheik, who did a lot for the business. And I'm just going to leave it at that. May he rest in peace and think of all the good times. But this has been a great show and a great one for us to kick back and getting more back into the podcast on a regular basis.
Yeah, I know you and I both have missed talking to each other. I mean, we have talked without doing the podcast, but I mean, as far as being able to sit down here, talk about wrestling and rock and roll, it's been a while since we've done that. So it's nice to catch up, and fans at home, make sure you go to WrestleCade.com and book your room, book your tickets, book your autographs that you want to get, the people you want to meet. Make sure you start getting that planned out now because those rooms are going to start going rather quickly. So right now is a good time to book your room, book your stay. Right there at WrestleCade. And then also make sure you join us in Morganton this Saturday, June the 10th, for the NAWA huge event there in Morganton. But also make sure you go on our Facebook page, the Binge Buster Show. We have merch available. We have the Saturday Night Superstar, Tony Binge, Slam Buddies. We have a few of them still available. And also a new T-shirt is going to be dropping in a couple of weeks. I'm excited about that. I can't wait for that to be available. And their prices are going to be fairly reasonable on the T-shirts. The Slam Buddies, you can just message the Facebook page, and we'll tell you exactly how you can pick up your Slam Buddy. I will have a few with me this Saturday in Morganton, and I'll be glad to autograph it for you, for you right there in Morganton. And Chris, I tell people, for all you people out there that's ever wanted to sleep with me, here's your chance. And all you people out there that want to punch me, here's your chance. Buy your Slam Buddy, fulfill your fantasy or your desire, whichever it may be. But pick up a Slam Buddy today. There's only a few left, so make sure you get them because once they're gone, they are history. They will be gone forever. So, but
I'm telling you, you don't want to get those girls all fired up, Tony, over there.
I'm trying not to. And I'll tell you, if you're a female and you want to know how I smell, when you order your Slam Buddy, just say, hey, please make this just like you, and I'll spray my infamous cologne on it so that you'll not only be able to sleep with me, but you'll be able to smell me at the same time.
There you go. That sounds like a plan.
So great. Well, Chris, man, I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I know your weekend's going to fill up pretty quickly, and you got your wedding to go to, and I've got my wrestling match to go to, so it's going to be a fun weekend for both of us.
Absolutely, Tony. Thank you for having me on tonight. Look forward to talking again to the fans next week, and let's keep this thing going. I can't believe we're in June, but the summer's here, and it's time to get out and have some fun.
Ready to have some fun. And fans, next week we hope to have a guest. I had one lined up for this week, but scheduling kind of prevented that, so maybe next week we'll have a surprise guest. But any event, either way, Chris and I will be here next week, and so we will see you then here on the Binge Buster Show.
Thank you for listening to the Binge Buster Show. Make sure you like us on Facebook and download us on your favorite podcast platform.